All right, welcome back everybody for another deep dive.
Yes.
So today we're exploring Liberated Life. It's a company that claims to offer a very holistic approach to well-being.
Right.
And we've got all kinds of sources here. We've got their website, program descriptions, and even some client testimonials to go through.
Wow.
But the thing that really caught my eye was this whole mind-body-soul connection that they emphasize. It sounds a bit
They can sound a little
out there, you know?
For sure.
At first glance.
I agree.
But could this actually be the key to a more liberated life?
It's an interesting concept, for sure. I think a lot of people are looking for that sense of liberation, that feeling of being truly free. And what's interesting to me about Liberated Life is that they're not just promoting some kind of mystical approach.
Right.
They seem to be grounding their methods in a modern understanding of how our mental and physical health are intertwined.
I think you're right. And, they have these reboot programs, and they have some pretty catchy names. Mind Reboot, Body Reboot, and Soul Reboot.
Oh, wow.
And each one seems to tackle this huge list of issues.
Right.
Stress, sleep problems, even things like procrastination and emotional triggers.
Wow.
They even mention trauma, anxiety, and depression.
Wow.
So it feels like they're trying to create a checklist of common challenges.
See, I was going to say, it sounds like a really good way to connect with people who are looking for help with all sorts of things. By addressing such a wide range of issues, they're saying, hey, we get it. We understand what you're going through.
Right.
But I think what really sets Liberated Life apart is their emphasis on treating the root cause of these problems.
Okay.
Not just masking the symptoms.
Yeah.
And this is where their integrated approach comes in.
Okay, so walk me through this integrated approach.
Sure.
What does that actually mean? What are they doing?
Yeah. Well, it's about recognizing that our well-being is multifaceted.
Okay.
And Liberated Life seems to be drawing on a growing body of research that highlights the interplay between our physical and mental states.
Okay.
For example, they talk about the role of inflammation.
Okay.
Now, you might think of inflammation as something that just happens when you, sprain an ankle or something. But chronic inflammation, which is often caused by stress and lifestyle factors, can actually impact your brain and contribute to things like anxiety and depression.
Wow. I never really connected inflammation to mental health.
Yeah, that's pretty fascinating.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So how do they address that?
Well, they offer an optional health assessment alongside their Mind Reboot program.
Okay.
And it's designed to pinpoint how stress is manifesting physically in each individual.
So, they're looking at, hormone levels.
Exactly. They might look at things like hormone levels, sleep patterns, even digestive health.
Okay.
And based on those results, they can then make personalized recommendations. This could include lifestyle changes, supplements, or even something called biosound therapy.
Biosound therapy. That's a new one for me. What's that all about?
So basically, it uses specific sound frequencies to promote relaxation and healing.
Huh.
It's a non-invasive approach that can be surprisingly effective in reducing stress and improving overall well-being.
Interesting. So they're taking this really personalized approach.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is good. But let's talk about the people behind it all.
Okay.
The founders, James and Tanif, they have some pretty compelling stories themselves, right?
Absolutely. James overcame some really serious adversity.
Wow.
And Tanif actually found her way to this path through her own health struggles.
Really?
Yeah. In fact, Tanif dealt with severe digestive issues for years.
Oh, wow.
And it was through her own journey of healing that she discovered the power of this holistic approach.
So they're not just therapists who read about this in textbooks.
Right. They've lived it.
They've actually walked the walk.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And it makes you think, hey, if they were able to overcome their challenges and find this sense of liberation, maybe I can too.
Absolutely. Okay, so you've got this interesting mind-body-soul philosophy, personalized assessments, even this biosound therapy. But how does it all come together in their programs? I mean, what does a Mind Reboot actually look like?
So the Mind Reboot program is a 7-week commitment with hour-long sessions each week.
Wow.
It's a pretty significant investment of time, but the price point is actually quite reasonable considering everything they offer.
Oh, okay.
They dive deep into understanding your unique stressors, limiting beliefs, and emotional patterns.
So it's not just a quick fix.
No, not at all.
It sounds like they're really trying to dig in and help you understand the root causes of your stress and anxiety.
That's right. And remember, it's not just talk therapy.
Okay.
They integrate those insights with recommendations for lifestyle changes, nutrition, and even things like mindfulness practices.
That sounds pretty comprehensive.
It is.
But before we get into the nuts and bolts of each program, let's step back and talk about this mind-body-soul connection a little bit more. It's a catchy phrase, but what does it actually mean in the context of liberated life?
Yeah, good question. It is a good question. And, it's easy to get caught up in the esoteric side of things.
Yeah.
But what I find fascinating about liberated life is that they're trying to bridge the gap between ancient wisdom and modern science.
Okay.
We're taking this concept of mind, body, soul and trying to ground it in some practical applications.
So give me an example. How does this play out in their programs?
We'll take the Mind Reboot program, for example. Yeah. It's not just about addressing your thoughts and emotions.
Right.
They're also looking at how those mental patterns are actually impacting your physical body. Remember, we talked about inflammation.
Yeah.
Stress and anxiety can trigger inflammatory responses in the body, which can lead to a whole bunch of physical and mental health issues.
That makes sense. So they're not just treating the mind in isolation. They're looking at how everything is interconnected.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where the soul piece comes in.
Okay.
Now, when they talk about the soul, they're not necessarily talking about religion or spirituality in a traditional sense.
Right.
It's more about tapping into your core values.
Okay.
Your purpose.
Yeah.
Your sense of meaning.
So it's less about chanting and incense and more about figuring out what makes you tick.
Yeah, precisely.
What drives you, what gives your life meaning.
Yeah, and that's such a powerful concept because when you're living in alignment with your values, when you have a strong sense of purpose, it naturally impacts your mental and physical well-being.
It's like everything starts to click into place.
Exactly.
You're not just going through the motions. You're living with intention.
Right.
But all this sounds great in theory. Does it actually work in practice?
Yeah, that's the real test, isn't it? And thankfully, we have some really interesting insights from people who have actually gone through these programs.
Okay, let's look at those client testimonials.
Yeah, so we have folks who signed up for Mind Reboot to deal with their anxiety and stress.
Okay.
We have someone who specifically targeted procrastination.
Wow.
And we even have couples who worked on their relationship dynamics with Liberated Life.
That variety is pretty impressive. It seems like their methods aren't just for one specific type of person or problem.
Yeah, I think you're right. And what's really striking is the consistency in how people describe their experience.
Okay.
There's this recurring theme of feeling stuck before working with Liberated Life.
Interesting.
Like they were trapped by these limiting beliefs, negative patterns, or just overwhelmed by life in general.
Right.
But after going through the program, they talk about this feeling of release, of empowerment.
So they're not just coping, they're actually transforming their lives.
It seems that way.
That's pretty amazing. Give me an example. What kind of specific changes are people seeing?
Well, one client who struggled with severe anxiety mentioned that she's now able to handle stressful situations with this newfound sense of calm.
Okay.
She used to avoid social gatherings.
Yeah.
But now she finds herself actively seeking them out.
Wow, so going from avoiding social situations to actually seeking them out.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big change.
That's huge. It's like she's reclaimed her life.
Yeah, it really is. And what about the procrastinator?
Oh, yeah. So there's this testimonial from a guy who was a chronic procrastinator.
Okay.
He was constantly missing deadlines, letting people down, and feeling terrible about himself.
Right.
But after working with Liberated Life, he finally broke free from that pattern.
That's great.
He talks about this sense of accomplishment and even a boost in his self-esteem.
So tangible, concrete results, not just feeling vaguely better,
right,
but actually changing their behavior and achieving things that they previously thought were impossible.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and it's not just about achieving external goals. A lot of these testimonials mention a deeper sense of self-awareness, a feeling of being more connected to themselves and their values.
Interesting.
There's this one testimonial that really stood out to me.
Okay.
It's from a woman who went through the Mind Reboot program after experiencing a traumatic event.
No.
She describes feeling broken and lost before working with Liberated Life.
That must have been incredibly difficult. Trauma can be so isolating.
It is. And she goes on to say that through the program, she was able to process her trauma, reclaim her sense of self, and start to heal.
That's amazing.
She talks about feeling whole and reconnected to herself again.
Wow, whole and reconnected. That's powerful. It really speaks to that soul element that we were talking about earlier.
It does. It's like they're not just helping people cope with their problems.
Yeah.
They're guiding them on this journey of self-discovery and healing.
It sounds like it. Okay, so we've heard these amazing stories, these transformations, but I'm curious, is there a common thread, a key element that seems to be driving these positive outcomes?
That's a good question. I think the secret sauce is the integration of all these different approaches.
Okay.
They're not just focusing on the mind or the body or even the soul in isolation. They're looking at how all these elements interact and influence each other.
Yeah.
And they're empowering their clients with tools and strategies to actually create lasting change.
It's like they're giving people a roadmap to a more liberated life.
Right. And that brings us back to the core question. What does a liberated life actually look like?
Right.
It's a big question. And I think that's where things get really interesting.
Yeah. It is a big question. It's like, what does that actually look like?
Right. Is there a checklist or like a set of criteria?
That's the beauty of it. There isn't. Liberated life doesn't give you a pre-packaged definition.
Okay.
They're guiding you to discover what liberation means for you, which makes sense. What feels freeing to one person might be totally different for someone else.
Exactly. It's a personal thing.
Yeah.
Remember those catchy titles on the website? Direction Dilemma, Relationship Roadblocks, Confidence Conundrum.
Yeah.
Those aren't just marketing.
Right.
Those are pointing toward areas where people often feel stuck, limited.
Oh, I see. So liberation could mean having the clarity to chase your dream career.
Exactly.
Or building relationships where you feel truly seen and supported. Or finally tackling that project you've been putting off for like years because of self-doubt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be this massive overnight shift.
Right.
It can be small, everyday wins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Imagine waking up without that dread of procrastination or handling a stressful situation with grace instead of spiraling.
Those small wins can be so powerful. They can really build momentum and show you what's possible.
Exactly. And that's what Liberated Life seems to be providing. It's not a quick fix,
right?
But a set of tools and strategies to navigate life's challenges and create a life that truly reflects your values and aspirations.
It's like they're saying, here's how to build your own version of freedom.
Right.
Step by step.
Exactly. That's a really empowering message. It's not about seeking external validation or approval, but cultivating that inner strength and resilience to define your own path.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave everyone listening with a question.
Okay.
What area of your life feels most in need of liberation right now?
Yeah, good question.
Is it your career, your relationships, your mindset, maybe even just how you structure your day?
Could be anything.
Whatever it is, remember that you have the power to choose. You can choose to stay stuck, or you can choose to take even just a small step towards that freedom you desire.
That's a good point. And, maybe this exploration of liberated life has sparked some ideas and curiosity to explore what a truly liberated life could look like for you.
Absolutely. So keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.